Overtime!
Hey guys, welcome back to Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I know another week, another late episode, but guys, I have been super busy working on a bunch of stuff. I've been repairing the Sega Outrun Mini plastic dashboard. That's actually coming out pretty well. I've also been busy building new bases for Nintendo cabinets, but those projects just aren't ready yet to do a complete video on, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different here and quickly put something together. We're gonna work on today, we're gonna work on this Nintendo monitor. It's a Sanyo 20EZ. I recently picked this thing up. Guys, I've been working on a ton of 20EZ monitors lately. I fixed two up for a friend. I've got one in the Popeye. I've got this one here. I think I have one other hanging out somewhere. I got two more actually. I got Nintendo monitors coming out the wazoo. Guys, you don't even know about the Nintendo games that I have picked up recently. You just haven't done pickup videos yet. Anyway, this one I recently got. We can take a look here and see what's going on with the burn. This clearly has some Donkey Kong burn here. I have a blacklight flashlight just to sort of help us out. We can see very faintly, like right here, there's ladders, and we can see it says push 1 or 2 players. I'm guessing maybe this was on free play, and there isn't like an attract mode on free play. So maybe that burn came from free play. You see the rank, score, name down there, and credit. And you see this line over here. I'm guessing that maybe this thing had some foldover, some partial vertical foldover, and that got burned in, which is a typical cap issue with 20EZs. You know, and it's on sort of the left side because this, Donkey Kong is a vertically oriented game, but you got to think about how the monitor's rotated. So like this is actually the vertical axis, and this is the horizontal of the monitor, even though the game image might be rotated. So yeah, we got some burn here, but that's okay. This is probably going to be the monitor, maybe depending on how it turns out, that goes into my Mario Brothers cabinet. I think there's a K7000 in there right now, but I want a 20EZ to go in. So there's really two major kinds of Nintendo monitors. The 20EZ, the Sanyo 20EZ, is the most common. That's what you'll find in Donkey Kong and Popeye and Donkey Kong Jr., etc. There's also, I actually have a couple of them right here. These are Sharp monitors. These are Sharp XM 2001Ns. I've got a couple of those in my Play Choice 10, dual monitor Play Choice 10. Another one of them came in this Unisystem cabinet that I'm working on. And they're very, very similar. Nintendo used an inverted signal, which is sort of opposite. It's like a photo negative of the normal sort of monitor signal. So there's some differences. It's a different connector. It runs on 100 volts instead of 120 volts because that's the Japanese standard. So things are just different. But the 20EZ is what you'll find most often. I like working on the 20EZs a little bit better. There are some challenges with the Sharp monitors, which may be resolved at some point in the future. We'll talk about that maybe some other day. But anyway, the 20EZ is what's most common. And yeah, we're going to test this thing out. When I got it, the listing from the seller said it was working with no sound. Because another thing that's weird about these monitors, they actually have the sound amplifier on them as well. We'll go through this and how all this thing works in a little bit, sort of as we're taking it apart and working on it. But for testing, I've got it hooked up right now to my Unisystem cabinet. We'll come around to the side here. This has a Super Mario Brothers versus Super Mario Brothers PCB installed. We'll check out the connections here. This is the video signal cable, and it gets plugged in right there. You can see the original cable is unplugged. And again, it's different than a normal arcade monitor video connector. This is the power cord, and this is plugged in down to the transformer assembly, and it's got a plug that looks like this. But you do not want to plug this into a wall ever, never, 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 for two important reasons. One, this is designed to run on 100 volts. You can even see it says AC out 100 volt max, because again, 100 volts is the standard in Japan. So if you plug this into a wall outlet, you'll be sending 120 volts into this monitor, which is not good. It also needs an isolation transformer, which is what this thing is right here. And so if you plug it into a regular wall outlet, you'll be sending the wrong voltage, too high voltage, into the monitor, and you'll be sending a non-isolated voltage, which can cause all kinds of problems. So we've got our power, we've got our video signal, and like I said, this monitor actually handles audio as well, handles sound amplification. So this is the audio in from the game, and then this red and white pair of wires, this is the audio out, and that goes to the speaker. So we'll come around here, and again, I'll do a little bit more of a breakdown and show you what everything does and how it works. But I want to get it mounted, get the camera mounted onto the tripod here, and we'll come in maybe a little bit closer for you to get a nice view on what this monitor does when we fire it up. And I have not tested it. All I know is, you know, like I said, the seller's listing claimed that this thing was working with no sound, so we'll try it out. Maneuver my way around everything. My garage is getting so full, guys. Picking up way too many things. So plugging in the cabinet, and we'll throw the power in 3, 2, 1. I heard the, whoa! Yeah, okay. We got a lot of buzzing going on. I'm guessing that is the sound issue. And we do have some sort of image here. This looks terrible. Let me see if I can clean it up on the camera. Okay, that's a little bit better. You can see we do have an image. We've got that hard fold over, which almost looks like partial vertical collapse, but you can see the familiar Mario Brothers image there, and I'll get a game going. And, do I need to coin up? Okay, we've got a credit on. We'll hit the start button. No sound whatsoever. Let's get Mario running a little bit. Didn't do anything? Yeah, okay. So clearly we've got some issues here. We've just got a ton of buzzing, which is probably an audio amp. But at least the monitor is functioning. So hopefully a cap kit and some other repairs will get this thing working lickety-split. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get everything set up. We'll get the monitor rotated, we'll get it all disconnected, and we'll start tearing it apart and hopefully fixing this Nintendo Sanyo 20EZ arcade monitor. Okay, just like with any other monitor, before we do anything here, before we touch anything, before we take anything apart, we need to discharge the tube. You've probably seen me do this before. This is the tool we're going to use. It's a homemade monitor discharge tool. Basically, it's just a giant metal screwdriver with a wire soldered to the metal part of the screwdriver. That's all wrapped in electrical tape, so we're never going to be touching any of the metal. And at the end of this, the wire, we've got a little alligator clip. So we can clip the alligator clip onto the frame of the tube. And essentially what we're doing is we're shorting the anode to the frame, and that will discharge the CRT tube. So I've got it clipped on. I got my other hand in my back pocket. We don't want this to go across our, our heart. And you heard that little pop. Maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't. There's a little pop as the screwdriver made contact. And now we can pop this thing off. Come on, there we go. Give it a couple more touches just to be sure. And yeah, now our tube is discharged. That's important because you don't want to get shocked. And these, CRTs, a lot of them are technically self-discharging, but sometimes that takes a while. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes that circuit is damaged, and you don't want to take any chances, any risks, especially with high voltage, because these tubes can act as giant capacitors and hold on to voltage for a relatively long period of time. Now, the next thing we need to do is basically take this thing apart, and I think that's the step that people don't like. Some people don't like working on these monitors. These are good monitors, but they can take additional steps essentially to take it apart and put it back together, and people sometimes don't like that. So here's how I like to do it, kind of step by step. Again, we've got our power cable, we've got our audio out, we've got our audio in, and technically I think this brown wire and this flat video cable, these are technically from like a Donkey Kong harness. They're just disconnected and they're plugged in here. So we'll kind of get them separated. This is the audio amp over here, the sound amp. This can be entirely disconnected, so we'll take that out and take that apart. So this is the audio in signal. This is the JB connector, one of the internal connectors. This is the JC connector. People sometimes get these mixed up because you can plug one into the other and that will blow the amp. So you want to make sure these are typically marked. This says JB, it goes to the JB headers. This one says JC, it goes to the JC headers, and then there's a 2-wire plug right there. And now this audio amp is entirely disconnected, this audio board. So we can remove one screw here and our audio board is entirely out. This has got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was wiggly. That is it busted? That cap feels like it's broken underneath. We'll take a look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 caps on this soundboard. Okay, we'll put that off to the side. We'll do some other things to that soundboard too to hopefully bring it back to life. Next step here, let's take we'll put the screw back in just for safekeeping so I don't lose it. That's something I like to do. Otherwise, these screws tend to roll off somewhere where you don't want them to go. Next, we'll take the neck board off. And what's nice about these Nintendo monitors is they have these neck protectors to help keeping you from damaging the neck of the tube or the neck board, the PCB. There's 2 screws here that hold it on. And I don't think this, where'd it go? Right there. I don't think this monitor has ever worked out. It looks like it has some of the original zip ties. Everything's like in the original place, not the place where the wires end up after people work on them. So we'll slide that neck board protector off. And yeah, this thing is dusty and dirty. I typically like to wash my monitors before working on them. Not doing that in this case just because this is not what I was planning on working on today. So I'm not exactly prepped. I've got everything I need, but so it's just a little dusty. We'll clear some of that dust off to prevent just getting really filthy. It's not grimy, it's just dusty, so it's not like there's a bunch of nicotine. It's just, you know, HV, high voltage, attracts dust, so we'll be all right here. I'm gonna very carefully, this is the DAG wire, so the DAG sort of grounds the tube that gets connected to the neck board. This attaches sort of in an interesting way. There's a wire that plugs onto a header on the neck board, but then it's like tied on. It's knotted. The wire itself is actually knotted. So we'll undo that knot, being very careful not to break the fragile neck board. And then this wire can be fished out. There's a pretty sizable opening in the neck board that allows that DAG wire to go through. We'll hook that in there, just keep it out of the way. So now we can take the neck board off easily. You don't really want to rock it much. Just tiny little wiggles. And oh, that's dusty. That's dusty right there. And there's a bunch of these sort of like twist hooks that hold things in place that we need to unravel so that things can come apart. Let's see. Let's take the cage off of the flyback protector. It's got 4 screws that hold it on here. Okay. And 4. And this also has a couple of these twist hooks that hold a bunch of these wires in place. There's also a couple that are like on the cage, and I'm just getting the wires out of these sort of hooks because otherwise it'll try to yank on the wires when we pull it out. It's just these plastic sort of things for cable management purposes. There's a second one down here you gotta don't forget about. All right, I think I got it. All right, that hole comes off, and you see like these sort of wire guides here. That's what I was talking about. So we'll put that aside. We'll make sure we got these screws back in where they go again so we don't lose them. I'm already getting a lot of filth all over my hands, but I've seen much, much, much worse. So yeah, where I got this from, I guess the seller is a multi-cater, unfortunately. And you know, he sold me basically all the guts from a Donkey Kong. I got an untested board. Maybe the board was working. I haven't seen it working. This quote-unquote working with no sound monitor. I got a power setup, all for a really, really great price. I would have spent the money that I paid on just the monitor alone. And a huge thank you to Overtime Arcade channel member Mike. He's the one that actually grabbed this for me, and then I picked it up from Mike's house. So thank you so much, Mike, for doing me a huge favor. And that's the kind of stuff that we do for each other. The Overtime Arcade channel member community. You know, not only do you get to support your favorite YouTube channel about arcade repair and restorations, you get to join an awesome community of very like-minded folks, just like you, over 100 people. They all donate $1.99 a month to help support the channel. They pay for cap kits, they pay for tools and parts, they pay for, you know, new monitors or whatever. You also get access to some awesome perks. There's a monthly members-only live stream, and the last one we did was a marathon 5-hour session, and it's interactive. People have their they get to talk on in the live stream with their voice, so it's more like a hangout than anything else. They get early access to all new videos, so I'm hoping they get to see this by late Monday instead of the Tuesday public release. And best of all, they get access to our private members-only Discord server, where we're constantly helping each other out, sharing what we're working on, what we're playing, what we're collecting. We're hooking each other up with deals. We're doing pickups for each other. And it's a great community of people helping each other and enjoying this hobby together. So if you want to learn more about what it means to become an Overtime Arcade channel member, click that join button down below. And yeah, look at all these names here. You probably recognize, if you've been in this hobby for any length of time, you probably recognize multiple people listed here. So yeah, click that join button down below. And thank you so much to not only Mike for picking this thing up for me, but all the awesome channel members, because I really enjoy being part of that community. And they do a lot to help keep this channel going. So thank you to all of them. So continuing on here, we have another screw to remove here that holds onto this grounding wire. So we'll do that. And I think, oh no, this whole thing has to come out. So that goes there. Underneath, there's actually another screw that holds the board onto a little mounting bracket. So we'll remove that and get that all the way out. Okay, those two screws we'll put off to the side. We'll gently lay this down without hurting the neck board. Put these two screws over here and hope that they don't go rolling off on their own. Let's see, we have a bunch of wires over here that we need to disconnect. Turn this around so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. This is the gauze wire. We'll disconnect that. We've got to fish a lot of stuff out of here. Let me grab my side cutters to cut some of these wires free. Although technically, I don't think I need to cut this one. This is the video cable, really from, like I said, the Donkey Kong harness. And this brown wire also from the Donkey Kong harness. If I can avoid cutting things, I like to do that. So those are good. Those can stay on the frame of the tube. We have this red twist tie here, which, believe it or not, is original. And this is holding the power wire and the audio output wire. Save this original vintage twist tie from Japan. So those are free. The kids are making a mess, digging through the garage, getting toys out. I'm keeping an eye on them while I'm working on this stuff. And we're just disconnecting some of these wires from these guides. All right. Trying to do this in real time so you guys can see exactly what goes into this. Now I'm going to unscrew. This is the, it's like an adjustment board. It's not really remote because it only moves it a couple of inches, but it's, you know, got a bunch of adjustment pots on a board right here. And that's the loop. Okay. There's a little mini transformer here that's part of the sound circuit. I guess the amplified audio goes to this transformer before going out to the board. This stays on the on the frame. We don't need to do anything with that as part of the cap kit and repair. We'll unhook the power cord back here, and this next bundle of wires for the adjustment board and sound. There's just so many of these little wire guides, I guess you would call them, to kind of hold things in place. We'll disconnect the gauze circuit connector without breaking anything. There we go. And we got one more of these. There's a bunch of these standoffs that have little almost locks that hold them in place. And that's good. Okay. We'll put this screw back in here for the adjustment board. And it's really, really warm out here. It's October in Virginia, but we're having kind of a warm spell. August and September really weren't bad at all, but feels almost like summer is back right now. So this all goes here. That's all. Okay, that's good. And there's we gotta very gently, because this is a point where you can break things. We've got to lift the board off of these standoffs, and sometimes these standoffs want to grab on, and you can crack the PCB, especially right here. I've had to repair cracked chassis PCBs because they want to crack when you're pulling them off of these standoffs. So you kind of want to support it and just very gently. You can even squeeze them together sometimes if you need to get them to let go. And then there's one more up there up front. That's all right. That's looking good. Now the last connector is the yoke, and I often forget about that and get hung up on it. This bundle of wires here. Sometimes this needs a little bit of encouragement to come off. There we go. We'll hook that over here, being careful not to damage the yoke. We have another twist connector for the anode wire. Lots of dust. So we should be able to now carefully remove this whole thing with all these wires. Oh, one's still hooked in there. Okay, coming out. Supporting the neck board. Things are going to want to get hooked onto various things, but I think we are, other than the power cord, we are free now. Okay. So let me get this all moved out of the way, but this is what we're going to be working on. I'm going to brush off some of this dust, and I'll get the soldering iron warmed up, and we'll start on our cap kit. Alrighty, I've got all of the, or at least most of the dust brushed off with a soft bristle brush, so that'll go a long way. And I got the power cable sort of zip tied together temporarily just to bundle it up, make it easier to work with. And I think we're ready to start the cap kit. I've got my cap kit here from arcadepartsrepair.com. That's where I get all my cap kits from, and the most of my at least electronic component parts. And I think we're ready to dive in here. But we're not going to touch the chassis PCB just yet because we have to do the soundboard first, right here, or the audio board. This little guy right here, we're going to replace all the caps on it, and actually we're also going to replace both of the two transistors. Peter from arcadepartsrepair.com actually includes those two transistors, TR373 and TR374, which go on these little heat sinks, in the cap kit. And in fact, there's this extra baggie of just the audio board caps and transistors, so that makes it nice and convenient. What I think I'm going to do, I'm actually going to remove all of the capacitors first, and then it's going to make it a little bit easier to get to these transistors, so we can just go through here, and we'll make sure one by one that all of the caps are the right values and that everything is in the right place. It's a pretty basic board here. The only issue I find is the underside of the board isn't labeled, so we got to make sure we are following what's going on the top. So we'll just come through here one by one, and we'll pull these caps out. And again, this technique that I like to use now is to just heat up the legs on the back side and sort of rip the capacitors right out. Rather than use my solder sucking tool, I just pull them out. I learned that from Sean from Classic Arcade Repairs on YouTube, who also is a channel member. So that first one was 377, which is a 22 microfarad, 160 volts. 377 is 22 and 150. So that checks out. You can go up in voltage, and often Peter will give you a higher voltage capacitor, but you don't want to go up, or you don't want to change the capacitance value, the microfarad value, unless there's a note or something well known where you want to change it. So that's good. This is 378 right here. We'll pull all these off one at a time. And this leg. Okay. Oop. And that leg, like, just this cap kind of fell apart. Okay. That was 378, and it's 10 microfarad, 160 volts. So that's 10 and 250. So that checks out. But yeah, that leg sort of just got destroyed. It's still partially in there, so we'll remove that. I didn't even really heat it up. It just sort of fell off. We can kind of pull this leg out. Okay, I get it. Maybe it like disintegrated. Or perhaps I can grab it like this. There's a little nub of it in the solder. There we go. There's our leg. You can see that right there. So that's fine. Next is, that we'll grab, is 372. And most of these are polarized, except there is a single bipolar cap on this soundboard. And there's two on the chassis PCB. Okay, that was 372, which is 47 microfarad, 160. We'll kick that one up to 250 as well, but that's 4.7, which is correct. 374 is the one that I was curious about, and it's, let's see, where is it? I think it's right here. Yeah, that one, the leg came apart too. So that could be the reason why we've got no sound, if two legs are basically broke off. This one was also 4.7, 160, 374, 4.7. Yep, we're bumping that up. Looks like we're bumping up all of the capacitors from 160 to 250. This is 375, which is right here. Okay, and this one is 10 microfarad, 50, 10 and 50, so that one's going to stay exactly the same. All of these are checking out so far. Here's 373. Again, you just sort of heat up the leg and rock it out of the way. There we go. That popped right out. And that's 100 microfarad, 25 volts. And that's bumping up to 50 volts. So that's good. And looks like we got one left here at 371, which looks like this. Okay. All right. And that's 4.7 and 25. This is the bipolar cap, and you can see there's no, it says NP for non-polarized. 4.7 and 25, we're going to bump that up to 4.7 microfarad and 50. So that's good. Now what we need to do is remove the transistors. And the way I like to do that is actually to use the solder sucker, because we're going to pull these things entirely off. All right, we're going to rip them entirely off here. So we'll come around to the underside here. And these, the three legs are sort of mounted kind of in a triangle pattern. So I'm going to come in with some fresh solder. And we will add fresh solder to these legs. That will help the old solder flow so that we can remove it completely. And then there's two mounting points for the actual heat sink. So again, we'll add a bunch of fresh solder here to help the old solder flow and come off. Okay. And then we come in with my Vampire Tools solder sucker. This is the mechanical, non-motorized solder sucker that I like to use these days. We'll get in here. There we go. It's pretty clean on the first shot. There's a little bit left here. Okay, that looks good. And then right here. Okay. I think that's right. And one more. This one actually shares a pad with another component. Okay. And then the points where the heatsink is mounted. This might require a little bit more heat a couple times here, just because the heatsink will obviously absorb a lot of the heat coming off of the soldering iron. All right, we're almost there. All right, let's see if we can gently rock this thing out. And yep, there we go. So that looks pretty good. We'll do some cleanup in a second. And then we can take a screwdriver and just gently remove the screw that holds in the transistor. Come on. There we go. So that was 374. Put the screw off to the side. And that was a A940, which should be an SA, 2S A940. So that's good for 374. I'm going to get a Q-tip and just a tiny bit of isopropyl alcohol, and that will clean up the old heatsink compound right here. So we'll do that. All right. I'll clean that up a little bit better in just a second. And I'll go and I'll remove this transistor the exact same way. But what I want to show you real quick is, again, what I do to clean up these pads after removing the solder. This is ChemWick soldering wick or solder braid from Chemtronics. This has, where's a good example? This has flux built right into it, so we can come here and just apply it over the top of where we moved a capacitor. And this cleans up the old solder really nice to give us a nice clean pad for us to solder onto. So I'll do that for all of the vias, and I'll remove this other transistor. Maybe we'll do a little bit of cleanup on the top again with isopropyl and a Q-tip, and we'll be ready to install the new caps and the new transistors. Okay, I got the other transistor and heatsink removed from the audio board. I actually went ahead and installed the first one, the replacement for the first one, back into the audio board, so we can cross off TR374 from the list here. So in order to install this, one of the things we need to do is bend the legs of the new transistor to kind of match what they looked like on the old one. So as you can see, the three legs are all bent out. The middle leg is bent back and then down, and the outer legs are bent up and then down, or bent out and bent down. So we'll kind of recreate that just with some needle nose pliers. So you don't have to be exactly perfect, but just sort of come back a good amount and then come down a bit and bend that straight and sort of make sure that it's straight in there. And then the outer legs are going to come up and then down. We'll do it for the other one as well. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we'll get them lined up in the holes on the circuit board, and that's really what's going to enforce the shape. Just make sure that they're straight. All right, that's good enough. Like I said, the circuit board will really kind of help with holding everything together. Now what we need to do, I've got it all cleaned up, all the old heatsink compound has been cleaned off, and instead of putting new heatsink compound on, I'm going to use a little sill pad. This is a TO220 sill pad that matches the TO220 case that this transistor comes in, and I have in fact a lifetime supply of them. I've got 1,000 or probably about 990 right now of those sill pads, and when needed I have insulators for the screw, although this application doesn't use that. So basically what we're going to do is we'll get everything lined up with our screw. The screw comes through the top of the transistor, the sort of mounting plate, which is also the ground, in this case at least. Get it lined up, the sill pad, and then just get it started in the hole on the heat sink. Use my screwdriver to just get it started so it'll hang in there as I drop that screwdriver. Okay, and then what I want to do is really kind of get this lined up and centered. Sometimes this takes a little bit of coaxing, especially here. There are these two like little bumps on the heatsink that are designed to align the transistor, but what happens is they kind of sort of get in the way of the sill pad being lined up, and we can use gravity a little bit to kind of help get everything there. Okay, that looks good. And I'll hold that with my thumb and screw it in. And before I give it a real crank, I'll make sure, yep, everything looks nice and aligned. We'll tighten that down nice and solidly. And so this sill pad, in my opinion, in applications where you can use it, just provide, it provides the same sort of help, heat transfer, and it doesn't create a huge mess. So I like using it. I know a lot of other folks like using it. There are some purists out there that don't care for it, and that's okay. You can still use the original methods if you want. And we'll get everything lined up. And like I said, the vias, the holes in the PCB are really what's getting everything nice and aligned. So that looks all good. Make sure it's straight. Okay. And then we'll come in with our solder and we'll solder the heatsink into place. This will take a little bit of additional heat, again, just because the heat sink wants to do its job and absorb the heat that I'm applying to the solder with the soldering iron. That's all right. And the other side, this gets soldered to the ground plane, although this part over here is isolated. Okay. And then we have our 3 legs of the transistor. This leg shares a pad with another component, so we'll make sure it's got enough solder for that as well. Take a look at that. I think that looks pretty good. However, we never trust our eyes. We use our multimeter set on continuity to confirm that we have a good solder joint on each of these legs. So first the heat sink, that's good. This one has nothing else to go to, but it should go to another ground, and it does. The middle leg, this leg, and this leg. That's all good, okay? And then lastly, we can come in and just ever so slightly trim the tips of the new transistor legs, being careful not to cut into the solder ball. And both of those transistors have now been replaced. All right, and just to double check, ooh, this is tilting a little bit. See that? See, that's tilting this way. Ooh, I don't like that. So my OCD is going to force me here to redo all this work. And sometimes that's just, you know, I don't want to look at that all crooked. So we'll just redo this real quick. Probably should have done that before even checking the continuity, but hey, you know. Like John from John's Arcade always said, never be afraid to redo your work. Never be afraid to redo your work. Of course, the heat sink takes a lot more heat. Come on. Just like, really gonna get this going. Okay, that looks much better. And then just right here. Whoa, it's a little solder splash there. Come on. Come on. Okay, there we go. And redo this. Is this exciting? Is this thrilling, guys? Are you learning something? Or are you thinking, Charlie, I've seen this a million times before. I've done this a million times before. But, you know, this is kind of what it's like working on this stuff. All right, how's that? I think that looks a million times better. And we'll redo the transistor legs. Okay, quick visual inspection. This one can maybe use a tiny bit more solder. Okay, but again, looks can be deceiving. Don't trust your eyes. Use your multimeter. 1, 2, 3, and ground and ground. Okay. That looks pretty good. Cool. So we can scratch both of the, we got those already both scratched off the list. And yeah, those are the two sound amps on this board. I don't know what the other two smaller transistors, what role they play, but hey, I'm no engineer. Well, I'm no arcade engineer, certainly not a hardware engineer. I just fix stuff. I try to. You know, call me a hack, call me a whatever you will. All right. So now we're going to install the caps onto this board. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now normally I like to go sort of 3 at a time, sort of a row across the cap kit. Sometimes in bigger cap kits you'll have like 4 columns, so there's like, or yeah, 4 columns, so there's 4 caps to a row. But anyway, it's 7, so we can just do them all at once. And the first one, C371, is our bipolar cap, which is right here. And this is 4.7 microfarads, 50 volts, bipolar, which means it does not have polarity. And I'm going to position this just so that it's easy to see the value of the capacitor. So we'll stick that in right there. Okay. Yep. And I'll just barely bend the legs out to kind of hold that steady in place. And our next one is 4.7 and 250, which looks like one of these. And that's going at C372. C372 is right here. And the rest of these caps are all polarized, which means there's a positive leg and a negative leg. The negative leg is indicated in 2 ways. There's a stripe where the negative leg is, right? So you see the stripe here that even has a negative symbol. That goes to this leg. And the positive leg is going to be longer. So you can go by the length of the legs or by the stripe. I usually go by the stripe. And then on the board, you see how it's marked on the silk screen, if it'll focus. That mark there is where the negative goes. So match up the stripe with that line. Pop your capacitor in. Flip around. And a lot of people don't like to do this. And you don't want to flatten it across, but I try to just spread the legs slightly so the cap will hold in there. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more. And if you do have to flatten it all the way down, I do it on one side just so I can do them one at a time. So, and then, you know, because you don't want to flatten it all the way down because then it'll be difficult to get the cap out if you ever need to recap it or whatever. So C373 is 100 microfarad, 50 volts, which should be a smaller one. It's this right here. And this one came off of a strip, so we can just rip the cardboard off. There we go. And this also has, these legs are pre-bent. They're sort of kinked here, if you can see that. So you can just come in with your needle nose pliers and take that kink out and just make these legs straight. Because sometimes, you know, there's different hole patterns in the PCB, different, I guess you want to say, spacings between the vias. So these caps, for whatever reason, were pre-bent for a different spacing. All right, that's good, or at least good enough. So again, 100 microfarad, 50 volts goes into C373, which is right up there. And again, we're lining up the negative stripe with the negative line on the PCB. That pops right in, and that the remainder of the kink kind of helps to keep that in place. Next is C374, 4.7, 250. So let's see, that is one of these right here, 4.7, 250 in C374, which is right there. We line up the polarity strip, pop that in, hold it in place. And you want the bottom of the capacitor, call it the can, to kind of be as flush as possible with the top of the PCB. So I'll just come in here and spread these legs ever so slightly to sort of hold it in there nice and secure. C375 is 10 microfarad, 50 volts, which is this little guy right here. Again, we need to rip the paper off that would have come on the strip. And be careful, you can rip the legs right out of this capacitor. So hold firmly onto the legs when you're ripping this paper off. And sometimes it comes off like that, because you don't want to just rip the legs out of the capacitor entirely, because then, you know, it's not going to do its job for you. So that was C375, this guy there. Again, observing polarity. All right. And I think this one's going to have to be bent all the way over to sort of hold it. That's all right. Okay, that looks all right. Yeah, straight enough. Next is C377, 22 microfarad, 250 volts. That's this big boy right here, C377. Again, we're observing polarity. That goes right in like that. Hold it down. Spread the legs slightly just to sort of lock it in place. And then lastly, C378, 10 microfarad, 250 volt. That is what we've got here. And pull the paper out. Almost a clean pull. Okay. C378, right here, the last remaining spot. That slides right in. Try to keep it off the heat sink. And there we go. Now we can come in. Whoops. I'll fold that one all the way down. All right, now we'll come in one by one and solder every single one of these legs in place. We'll make our first pass with all of the legs. Come on. All of the legs that are not bent over. So right here, and right here, and here. There we go. I find soldering to be such a soothing process. Yeah, I know it's like doing the same thing over and over, but it lets you focus on something and it's not particularly stressful, at least not for me. I could imagine though, if you were not comfortable doing this, I could certainly see how it might be. Let's fold this one down. Just I don't like how it was rocking or rolling around. Okay. But yeah, soldering is not hard. You just need to, practice and develop the technique and get comfortable with the tools that you've got. Find a board that's totally destroyed. Let's see. And it doesn't matter if you mess it up. I don't like how that was rocking. Still rocking. Let's see if I can get that more secure. Actually, you know what I'll do is pull this leg straight out, solder it down, and then re-secure the other one. Yeah, find your technique, get some decent tools, and practice. And in no time, you will be having a very soothing experience like me. Welcome to ASM Arcade, where Charlie talks softly and puts you to sleep because you're bored by what he's working on. Okay, we're straightening out all of the legs that we tipped over. All right, just the last couple of joints here, solder joints. Okay, let's take a look. Did we miss any? I don't think so. And none of these legs are touching. So we can again come in with our multimeter set to continuity. And we can make sure that each of these legs has continuity with the next thing in the circuit. And they shouldn't have continuity except for possibly for a second with each other. So that's good. There we go. Okay, this goes here. This goes there. Okay, this goes to ground. This goes here. See, for a second, these two legs had continuity. Which is fine because it's basically telling you that the capacitor is filling up. I think that's what that means. Yep, like there. And that one too. Okay, I think we are all good. Take a look here and see if anything needs reflowing. I don't see any bad looking solder joints. Especially pay attention to the connectors like the sound connector and the headers. Headers are often going to look ugly because they're huge, but that all looks great. And then what we'll do is come around to the top side with a Sharpie and mark them all to make sure that they have the correct polarity. Again, so look for the stripe on the side of the cap against the stripe down there, and that one's good, so we'll mark it. This big one is correct also, as is this one. That little guy I can see there is good. That guy up there is good. This one is good. And this one is bipolar, not polarized. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So guys, I think we are good with the audio board caps. So we'll cross everything off the list here. And hopefully, if we drop this right in, even right now, well, let me trim the legs first again. We'll have our sound back, and I don't know if it's a combination of, you know, replacing the transistor amps or those two capacitors that, you know, essentially legs had fallen off. Yeah, this happens, guys. These are 40, you know, probably maybe 45-year-old electronics at this point. So used to saying 40 years, but you know, it's 2025 now. And if this was in a Donkey Kong from 1981, it's possible the monitor was manufactured in 1980. So this could be 45-year-old stuff. Yeah, nothing lasts forever. But hopefully with this repair, we'll be back in business. And we'll have many more years of faithful service by this monitor and audio board. Cool, okay. So there is our rebuilt audio board. So I'm going to put this aside. I'll do a little bit of cleanup, and then we'll finally be ready to dive into the main chassis PCB. All right, now with the main chassis PCB, we've got 25 capacitors to replace. Like I said, I usually like to go a row at a time, but I'm actually going to do the first 4 here together, only because C201 has a little asterisk. Often Peter will put little notes in the cap kit, and for C201 there's an asterisk and it says, note, C201 is upgraded per a Sanyo service bulletin to a 100 microfarad capacitor, which it originally had a 10 microfarad capacitor. So we'll take a look and see specifically what we get off this board to make sure that it matches that and is consistent with that. So we're looking for C161, C162, which is a bipolar cap, C166, and C201, like we said before. Now typically, caps with sequential numbers are generally going to be located in the same area, but on this Sanyo it kind of jumps around a little bit. C161 is right here. C162 is right there. This is the bipolar. C166 is then back down here, and then C201 is right here. So we'll go one at a time, and we'll tip this on its side, and we will come through here, not lose track of which cap we want to grab. Sort of stand this up. And fortunately, the underside is labeled here. It is silk screened with the labels for the components, which is very helpful. And we're just kind of melting the solder and rocking the cap back and forth. So C161 is a 220 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. We're upgrading that to a 50, so that's good. And then C162 was up here. Yep, okay. This keeps getting in the way. I might have to figure out a different way to zip tie this out of my way. Goodness. All right. 162, come on. I got the camera in the way too. C162, where is it? Yeah, right here. That's the bipolar, yep. Okay, and that is a 4.7 microfarad, 25 volt non-polarized. We're bumping that up to 4.7 microfarad and 50 volt, so that still tracks. 166 is back down here. Come on, wires. Some of them, where is 166? I feel it. Right here. Some monitor PCBs even had, all the wires were removable. They had plugs instead of being hard soldered in. Made it a lot easier to do work without the wires in the way. This is a 1 microfarad 50 volt. We're staying the same, 1 microfarad and 50. And then C201 right up here. And this is the one where we're upgrading the capacitance value. And you don't want to do that unless you know for a fact, like per these specific instructions here, which reference an original Sanyo service bulletin, that that's what you want to do. So the one we just pulled out is even a Sanyo capacitor, and it's 10 microfarad 25 volt. We're going to bump that up to a 100 microfarad 50 volt, again, per the note. So that's all looking good. And now I'll flip the PCB flat here, and we will come in with our chem wick, solder wick, and clean up the vias that we just, and I got terrible glare. I got it so that you guys can see it well, but it's hard for me to see. Clean up these pads real quick. Ooh, some solder inside that. That one right off the bat, there's solder in there. Let me grab my AWL. Basically, this is just a sharp stick. We'll poke this in, and where was it? Right here. Ooh, that is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add some solder, and then pull that right back out. That'll hopefully do the trick. Hold that up to the light, make sure I can see all the way through it. Oh yeah, that's clear now. Okay, good. False alarm, I was a little bit worried. Sometimes that can be a pain. Okay, if you get solder stuck in there. So we were jumping around, let's see. C166 is its neighbor. Okay. All right. I love this stuff, guys. Like, I would do this every night. Working on electronics, monitors in particular, I really, really enjoy. Let's see, C201 was up here. I like doing this more than cosmetic stuff or woodworking, anything like that. I mean, I do the other stuff, and I don't really mind it, but it's kind of a means to an end. The electronics, that's what I really like working on. All right, where is 162? Wasn't it up in this area? Look for the circles. Yeah, see it right here. Yeah, we'll get this solder out. And you know, working on monitors or power supplies is a lot less stressful than working on a PCB, like game PCB. Those tend to be a lot more fragile, a lot more complicated. The stuff that goes wrong on them is more difficult to fix sometimes, but monitors, and power supplies too. Those are very nice. Like with this one, the monitor isn't even not working. It's not working correctly, but it's not like this is a completely dead monitor. So we're looking for 4 caps here. First for C161, it's a 220 microfarad 50 volt, and there should be 3 just like that. And there are. So these came together on a strip, 220 microfarad 50 volt. We'll rip it right out of that strip. There we go. And then a 4.7 microfarad 50 volt bipolar, and there's 2 of those, but those are probably loose. Yeah, I found one, I think. Okay, 4.7 microfarad 50 volt bipolar, and then a 1 microfarad 50 volt, and there's 4 of those. Here's a strip of 4. All right, one microfarad 50 volt, and then lastly 100 microfarad 50 volt, and looks like there's 2 of those. Let's see. Yeah, these have these pre-bent legs. Yeah, 100 microfarad 50 volt. Okay, and we'll bend these legs back to make them flat again, or straight. Okay, that looks good. So, C161. Okay, I got everything in my hand here. C161, 220 microfarad 50 volt, that's correct. Observing polarity. Sliding that puppy in. And we'll hold it in place while we... Come on. These wires are just giving me all kinds of grief. I thought I was smart by zip tying them together, but that's just creating more bulk. So instead of flopping all over, they're like keeping me from being able to tip this thing into place. All right, next is 4.7 microfarad 50 volt bipolar, and that goes to C162 up here somewhere. Yep, I see it. And we'll position it so it's easy to read. All right, that goes in nice and easy. Next is C166, 1 microfarad 50 volt. Yeah, I know I'm repeating myself. I already checked the values, but you want to confirm every time because you don't want to put, and we're observing polarity, you don't want to put the wrong capacitor in the wrong spot with the wrong value or backwards, because it'll be a bad day. It'll blow up or whatever. So C201, we're upgrading to a 100 microfarad 50 volt, which is what we've got here. Observing polarity, sliding that in. That locks right in on its own. And we'll lay it flat. And this is getting too tangled. And we'll solder these all in. It's easy to see now because all the legs are sticking out. Okay. I'm in the zone, guys. This is my happy place. This is my happy place. It's the last one. Okay. Again, with a quick visual inspection. All right, those look okay. But again, never trust your eyes. Trust your multimeter. Set to continuity. And check each of these legs to make sure it's got continuity with the next one in the circuit. That's good. That's good. Only a momentary continuity between the two legs. See, this one here shares a pad, but then there's a jumper wire apparently on the top, indicated by that, so that's good. Okay. And here. And here. Good. And this one has a bit of a journey to there. And this one goes here. All right, only momentary. So that's all good. Come over to the top. How are we doing this? Okay. And we'll double check polarity by the stripes. This one is good. This one is bipolar, so either way is fine. Stripe lines up on this one, and the stripe lines up on this one. Okay. I like using the red Sharpie just because it, you know, gives me very obvious, you know, they wouldn't use a red Sharpie originally, so call it a signature. Again, we'll trim all these legs. Okay. Two more. Careful not to cut into the solder ball. You don't want to damage the integrity of the joint. All right, but how does that look? 4 down, 21 to go. We'll cross these first 4 off the list. And guys, rather than go one by one with you and subject you to a real-time actual cap kit, I'm gonna go do this on my own, especially since I wanna watch Sunday Night Football right now. My Patriots are playing the Bills, and Overtime Arcade channel member Sean Cruikshank has given me some grief, thinking that his Bills are gonna beat my Patriots, which is, you know, probably the outcome that's gonna happen, but hope springs eternal. So I'm gonna leave you here for a moment. I'm gonna go, you know, I'm gonna replace all these caps while I watch the game, and then we'll come back, we'll put everything back together, we'll test it, and hopefully our image is back to normal, and we've got audio, so keep your fingers crossed for that. Okay guys, the cap kit is complete, and we are ready for testing. I've got the whole thing back together, anode plugged back in, neck board plugged in, DAG wire plugged in, the gauze wire, over here somewhere. The gauze wire is plugged back in. All of the audio board stuff is plugged back in. I got the multimeter hooked up to measure the B+. I have the CraftyMech TPG test pattern generator plugged into the board to provide a signal. For power, I've actually got my compact portable isolation transformer power supply, which never had a good name for it. This is actually a 100 volt version, so this is for Nintendo monitors, as you can see by the Donkey Kong style Overtime logo sticker there, and it says right there 100 volt isolation transformer, different connectors for the power, so it's not really possible to mix it up, and I think we are good to go. Cap kit went fine. Patriots are currently leading in the 4th quarter, which is great. Everything came out fine. I did notice that across C11 I had 18 ohms, which would trigger the continuity beep on my multimeter, but I think that's okay. But I always want to note things like that when I'm doing a cap kit. I can't recall if that occurred before on the previous ones that I've done, but just something to note in case things are wrong. And the cap isn't shorted because I was getting that also with the cap out of the chassis. So I think we are good to go. I will turn on the multimeter. Oh, one thing I need to do, actually I'll turn it off. I need to set it to the inverted image. So we'll need to put dip switch number 4 on, otherwise it won't look right. So TPG is on. Multimeter is on. And here we go, throwing power in 3, 2, 1. Okay. I didn't hear HV. Oh, but we do have an image. What is going on with this thing? Okay. Let's adjust. Focus. Something seems out of whack here. Okay. Let's get to... let me actually go through... I mean, we've got an image. There's something going on here. Let me go through the... let's see what our colors look like. Whoa, something is really funky with our colors. Let me go through the white balance process, and hopefully I can get the image looking better than this. Well, guys, after a ton of adjusting, this is about as good as I can get the image to look on the screen. It's not great. It's not showing up on camera. All the colors are technically there. Red, green, blue. It's kind of a mess, guys. I'll get more. Once I put more green on, the blue comes out. It's yeah, it's not looking so hot. There's our red. There's our green, there's our blue. That's supposed to be white. This is, whoa, I think that's because I keep bumping the sync. So yeah, not great. I'm wondering if it might be a tube issue. I hooked up the tube to a rejuvenator and blasted the heck out of it. Those guns were weak. They're in the green now, but who knows? I mean, this is supposed to be white, yellow, teal, or cyan, green, magenta, or fuchsia, red, blue, black, and yeah, we're not seeing what we're looking for. We've got good brightness. Focus seems to be okay, so I don't know. It could be the tube. I've got other tubes I can test. I've got other 20EZs. I can swap things around. I might even have a spare tube compatible with the 20EZ somewhere. But what I want to do, here's the good news. We got rid of our foldover problem. We no longer have foldover. What I want to see is if we fixed the sound issue. So let me turn this off. Let me get the monitor hooked back up to that versus Unisystem cabinet. And hopefully we've at least fixed the sound issue too. All right, I hooked the monitor back up to the Nintendo versus Unisystem cabinet with the versus Super Mario Brothers PCB, and we're ready for one final test. If you recall at the beginning of the episode when we turned the monitor, we turned everything on with the monitor connected to the versus Super Mario Brothers, the speakers just started humming like crazy right off the bat. So hopefully we don't get that, and hopefully we do get game sounds. So let me flip the switch on the cabinet in 3, 2, 1. So we've got some buzz, nowhere near as bad as it was before. Okay. The buzz is actually a pretty common thing with Nintendo cabinets. And yeah, we can see Mario Brothers playing here, but man, is this thing screwed up. So let me try coining up. Okay, we got a credit. Yep. And I'll start a game. Whoa! Okay, well, at least we have at least we have audio, and it's rather loud. There we go. That's a little bit more manageable, and I don't really want to get a copyright strike. Oh my gosh. So we got something here. Let me see if I can jump. So we fixed the audio, we fixed the foldover, but obviously we've got lots of other issues. It seems to have a major degauss problem. Sometimes it'll degauss properly, sometimes it won't. Focus looks actually kind of okay. Let's see if I can really lock it in there. So the focus is fine, but it's just the colors. The colors are jacked to get out. And yeah, it looks slightly better in person than it does on the monitor, but not that much better. But anyway, we're gonna have to leave that for a future episode, figure out what's going on here. Is it the tube? Do I need to replace all of the adjustment pots? Do I have bad transistors? I don't know, guys. Let me know if you have any suggestions down below. Leave me a comment. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. This is basically what we do. We wait for Mario versus Mario Brothers to time out. Now here at Overtime Arcade, we're all about fixing, repairing, restoring classic coin-operated arcade video games, mostly of the early 80s, sometimes 70s, sometimes 90s. But oh man, look how bad it looks with the screen burn. That's, you know, and like the colors are super distorted down here because of that. It was burned so bad with the foldover. I don't know. We might have to do some kind of tube swap with this no matter what. But yeah, if this is your, whoa, that focus just changed as the image changed. But now it looks better. I don't know. Guys, if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single episode. Maybe I'll finish fixing this at some point in the future. I typically release new episodes every Sunday. This one was late. This one's going to hit the public on Tuesday. Channel members, however, get early access to all new videos. So if you're interested, again, hit that join button down below. And yeah, guys, I think that'll do it for another episode of Overtime Arcade. As always, I've been Charlie. Thanks for watching. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!